They promised the moon, raw horsepower, head-turning design, and a front-row seat to the American dream. But under that shimmering paint and tire smoke lay transmission failures, warped heads, busted electronics, and heartbreak by the mile. These were the 90s muscle cars that looked like legends, but punished the people who dared to own them. Let's revisit the decade's most seductive disasters. 11 gorgeous machines from the grunge era that roared like legends and crashed like curses. 1. 1990 Ford Mustang SVT Cobra R. Ford's special vehicle team had one goal in the early 90s: make Mustangs mean again. Enter the Cobra R, a track-spec machine with zero creature comforts, just a 5.0-liter Windsor V8, 225 horsepower, stiffer springs, massive sway bars, and 13-inch front rotors with 4-piston calipers. Oh, and no AC, no stereo, no back seat. It was terrifyingly fast for its day, tested at 0 to 60 in 5.7 seconds, the quarter mile in low 13 seconds. But it hated the street. Early buyers learned fast. The non-power steering setup made parking feel like wrestling a gorilla. The suspension would compress your spine on anything rougher than a racetrack. Add the limited-run nature, only 245 built, and every replacement part required prayer, patience, and occasionally an SVT contact. Cobra Rs weren't daily drivers. They were divine punishment for the ambitious. 2. 1993 Chevy Camaro Z28 LT1. This Camaro looked like it could punch through walls. It nearly could. GM dropped the Corvette's LT1 5.7-liter V8 into it. 275 horsepower, 325 pound-feet of torque, and paired it with the legendary T56 six-speed. Magazines said it brought the Camaro back from the dead, but this beast ran hot, literally. The reverse flow cooling system baffled even dealership techs. Head gaskets failed often, some within 20,000 miles. Aluminum heads warped. OptiSpark ignition modules, mounted just below the water pump, loved to fry in high humidity or if the water pump leaked, which it did. Drive it hard? Expect misfires, overheating, and eventually full-blown motor rebuilds. Today, clean Z28s are rare, not because they weren't loved, but because so many burned themselves out. 3. 1991 Dodge Stealth RT Twin Turbo. It had pop-up headlights, a wide stance, and a look that screamed exotic. But the Dodge Stealth RT Twin Turbo was actually Mitsubishi's GTO in disguise, and it came with everything: twin turbos, AWD, active exhaust, adjustable suspension, all-wheel steering, and a twin-cam V6 making 300 horsepower. It should have been perfect. But instead, it was a maintenance horror film. The complexity meant everything could go wrong. Transfer cases failed, rear steering motors locked, ECU caps leaked and fried boards, vacuum lines cracked, disabling entire systems. And when something broke, you couldn't take it to a Dodge tech. These were JDM bones. Most owners either became shade tree experts or gave up entirely. It was fast, flashy, and one error code away from a $3,000 headache. 4. 1995 Pontiac Firebird Trans Am W6. By 95, Pontiac needed something big. Enter the WS6 performance package, a wild aero kit, ram air hood, and a tuned 5.7-liter LT1 with 305 horsepower. It looked like a Batmobile for the street, and when it worked, it flew. 0 to 60 in 5.3 seconds. But inside, trouble brewed. The fuel delivery system was unreliable. The factory fuel pumps whined, cavitated, and failed, often stranding owners miles from anywhere. The LT1 had all the same weaknesses as the Camaro: overheating, ignition issues, warped heads. But with less dealer support and even more awkward body panels to remove for basic maintenance. And that WS6 hood? It was fiberglass. It warped if left in the sun too long. A sunburned muscle car? That's poetic pain. 5. 1994 Ford Mustang SVT Cobra. The SN95 Cobra was supposed to be the return of performance Mustangs. Independent rear suspension, upgraded brakes, and a more refined 5.0-liter V8 with 240 horsepower. But Ford's first crack at IRS was literal. Owners discovered the subframe around the rear suspension could crack under hard cornering. Welds failed, rear axles shifted, entire differentials tore loose. Ford issued a TSB, then a quiet recall, but most owners were on their own. Even when it held together, it had poor weight distribution and brake fade after a few laps. You bought it to be a canyon carver. You ended up chasing cracks with a welder. 6. 1997 Shelby Series 1. This car was supposed to be Shelby's return to greatness. An in-house chassis, carbon body, Oldsmobile-sourced V8, and Corvette ZR1 underpinnings. It looked like nothing else on the road, and it moved 0 to 60 in 4.5 seconds. But Shelby built it like a kit car. Fit and finish were erratic. Window seals leaked, body panels misaligned, the engine bay cooked electronics, the interior plastics peeled, and the support? Non-existent. Worse, most weren't even delivered as real Shelbys. To get the advertised 450 horsepower supercharged version, owners had to ship them back for a second stage build. It was Shelby's dream, but everyone else's engineering nightmare. 7. 1992 GMC Syclone Typhoon. You've heard it before. The Syclone could beat a Ferrari to 60. It was true. Car and driver clocked it at 4.3 seconds to 60 miles per hour, but that came at a cost. The turbocharged 4.3-liter V6 strained under pressure. Head gasket failures were common. The water-to-air intercooler often heat-soaked during repeated runs. And the AWD system? Complex and expensive when anything failed. The Typhoon SUV variant added more weight and body flex. Owners learned to live with drivetrain clunks, leaking shocks, and limited parts availability. Fast? Absolutely. Reliable? As long as you didn't drive it. 8. 1996 Dodge Viper RT10. The original Viper was as subtle as a sledgehammer to the teeth. No ABS, no traction control, no roof, side pipes that could burn your legs, 8.0-liter V10, 400 horsepower, 465 pound-feet of torque. But for all its track charisma, it was a hazard to own. Throttle tip-in was touchy, rear-end snap was common. Crashes happened constantly. Insurance companies either charged triple or flat-out refused. And then came the heat. Vipers cooked their interiors, they cooked fuel lines, they even cooked fuse boxes. Garage fires weren't myths, they were frequent. It looked like an F-16. It was built like a howitzer, and it treated owners like crash test dummies. 9. 1999 Dodge Durango RT. The Durango RT had a 5.9-liter Magnum 8, pushing 245 horsepower, rear-wheel drive or all-wheel drive, and performance shocks and sway bars. It was the charger of the cul-de-sac. But the brakes were criminally underpowered. The transmission slipped under towing. Leaf springs cracked. And the fuel economy? 12 miles per gallon on a good day. Drivers who pushed it found axle wrap, warped rotors, and a bizarre center of gravity that punished cornering. It looked ready for NASCAR. It was better suited to NASCAR parking lots. 10. 1998 Chevrolet Monte Carlo Z34. GM wanted to give the Monte Carlo some teeth again. The Z34 had a double overhead camshaft, 3.4-liter V6, 215 horsepower, and an aggressive stance. But it was all bark, no bite. The 3.4-liter had fragile timing belts, failing intake gaskets, and oil leaks galore. The 4T60E transmission couldn't handle torque. At 70 miles per hour, torque converter shudder made it feel like the wheels were trying to leave the car. Beautiful on a poster, painful on a long drive. 11. 1997 Plymouth Prowler. The Prowler looked like a concept sketch brought to life. Retro-futuristic with flared fenders and open wheels. It was a head-turner, but it had no muscle. Under the hood, a 3.5-liter V6, 214 horsepower, and a 4-speed automatic lifted from Chrysler sedans. 0 to 60 in 7 seconds, barely faster than a minivan. The aluminum chassis flexed, the front suspension squeaked, and replacement parts? Extinct. It cost Corvette money, but performed like a neon mirage. These weren't just cars, they were statements, dreams, emotional weapons, and when they broke big. Some were ahead of their time, others were built before their time, but all of them taught owners one thing: the cost of beauty is pain. We remember them not just for their power or their failures, but because they tried to give us something unforgettable. If these heartbreakers hit home, smash that like button, subscribe for more muscle history, and drop a comment. What 90s car seduced you and then wrecked your world?